Karobi. Dr. Natarajan is not here, but I'd like to thank him for having me be part of his IC. I have no financial disclosures to make. I think all of us would agree that corneal trauma is really important because it happens in younger individuals, especially children, while they're playing, playtime injuries, or it probably happens in younger individuals who are working, so it's like an occupational hazard. Now, the problem that's happening in younger individuals is that it is a lot of economic impact on them. When you see a patient of trauma, all the points which are listed here are important, but what I'd like to stress on is that you really need to make sure you know what the injury is happening about. Now, the reason I stress on that is because I had a patient who was sent to me. It was sutured, small corneal tear sutured elsewhere. The patient kept complaining of recurrent uveitis. So when I took history, there was history of injury with hammer while using hammer and chisel. We did look for a foreign body. We could not find any, and then when we went ahead and did a UBM, there was actually a small foreign body in the ciliary body, which was then later tackled, and the patient is doing fine. Hence, it's important that you note how the injury happened. Obviously, when an eye looks like that, the vision is not going to be great, but still go ahead and document it, not only for medico-legal reasons, but also because it is one of the most important prognostic factors for the final visual outcome. Document the pupillary reactions. If you can't document, obviously, in the eye, then you document a consensual reflex, absence or presence of it. When you do a slit lamp examination, apart from just looking at all of this, what is more important, especially if you are seeing an eye where the globe is well formed, the chamber is well formed, but you still see a corneal tear and you're suspecting it is a lamellar tear, make sure that you do a Seidels, and not only Seidels, but you need to do a forced Seidels. So you put in fluorescein in the eye and give gentle pressure on the eye to see if the Seidels is positive. It's very important to do that because you may have a full thickness, especially a triangular tears which have a valve effect, and it actually plugs the tear well and does not leak, but that does not mean that it is lamellar. I'm not really going to go into the details of this. The only reason I put it up was to show that you need to grade your patient as to what grade of trauma he is in, because the only reason for doing that is not only the patient may not just consistently follow up with you, he may go to other surgeons, so the other surgeon needs to know what the trauma was at presentation. Corneal tear management, I think basically it also, apart from depending on whether it's lamellar or full thickness, it depends on the size. Obviously, if it's smaller in size, you can look for non-surgical options. If it's going to be a larger tear, you're going to definitely have to go for surgery. If it's a lamellar tear, or if it's a full thickness tear, which is smaller than 2 millimeters, you can go non-surgical management. Lamellar tears, you can just go ahead and put a BCL, but if it is a full thickness tear or just a BCL is not going to work, you need to put cyanoacrylate or any other tissue glue that you may have and then put in the BCL. Make sure that the BCL stays in place for at least 4 to 6 weeks. It's not going to heal otherwise. Full thickness corneal lacerations, I think all of us here would know that the primary aim is to get a watertight wound so that you don't have leakage at the end of surgery. But I think not many of us remember that we need to suture maintaining the corneal asphericity. You can't really suture it like you're suturing any other tissue in the cornea, in the body. So cornea is the most important, or the first refractive lens of the eye. You need to keep that in mind when you're suturing. So how is it important, and how does the suturing and laceration alter corneal topography? As I've already mentioned, cornea is aspheric. What that means is that it's steeper in the center and it gets flatter towards the periphery. What happens in corneal laceration is that because there is gaping of the wound, there is a lot of flattening of the cornea, which is not good. And suture itself also causes a flattening of cornea. Now, I'm going to come back to this later and why that is important. Common questions, especially when you're assisting a resident or a fellow, they ask how long should the suture be? Is this length enough? So the thumb rule to follow while suturing is that you need that your length of the suture should be longer than the distance between the two sutures. If you follow that principle, by and large, you will be having adequate wound apposition without leak. Now, why that happens is because when you take a suture, there is a zone of compression which happens around the suture, and unless the zones of compression overlap, there is going to be leak. It's as simple as that. Suturing, you can use whatever suture that you're comfortable. Tenno nylon works best. The depth, you should try and be no-touch technique as much as possible. It's really not possible all the time. You should try for that. Obviously, aim for that. Just rotate your needle through the cornea and make sure you are at 90% depth. Literally, you're literally touching the descemet and coming out on the, the opposite end. Now what is the distance in the tear you should keep on either side at entry and exit? Is it equal? So that really depends on the shape of your tear. If you've got a perpendicular tear, it is absolutely equal your entry and exit. But if you've got a shelf tear, obviously you're going to come out longer on the side that the tear is shelving away from. Now the reason that is done is that it's clearly shown in this picture is that you want to maintain and you do not want to cause overriding. The minute you are going to go equal in a shelved wound, you're going to cause overriding and malopposition of the corneal tear. So what you can do is that you can remember that, think of an imaginary line which goes through your tear and try and use that when you're taking the suture rather than just going through the sutures perpendicularly. Try and, use this as a reference point. Just put this here, some patients which are sutured elsewhere, poorly sutured, bad apposition of the wound, knots not buried, and very short sutures. If you see the suture length, it's really very short. That's really not going to close that wound. So coming back to what I talked about, that the sutures themselves also cause flattening of the cornea. So how do you make that work in your favor when you're suturing a linear corneal tear? The way you make that work in your favor is that when you take bites in the periphery, you take longer bites and you take it tighter. So, you take longer bites and you take it tighter. Yeah, so that's going to be flatter. And in the center, since you want it to remain steep, you're going to take shorter bites. That's going to maintain the corneal asphericity. So that's how that works. If it's an angular tear, of course, it really depends which way that angle is going. If it's away from the visual axis, then you need to suture the apex first. If the angle is right in the visual axis, then you will not touch that. You will just suture the ends of it. Stellate corneal lacerations, I think multiple descriptions have been put in literature how to suture it. It's really very difficult to suture because most of them will have loss of tissue. You can use multiple interrupted sutures. If at the end of it you still feel there's a leak, then you can use a BCL. In literature, they have described a purse string suture. I'm sure it works well. I haven't really tried this. Now what happens if there is iris plugging into your wound? Make sure that you do not go in through the corneal tear and already disturb the damaged tissue. Make sure you make a side port. It's as simple as that. Just put in viscoelastic and the iris automatically just drops back, as you can see here, and then you can go ahead with the suturing. I think this is a very important point, whether to retain the uveal tissue or not retain the uveal tissue. 24 hours is not really, it's not really a very strict guideline. By and large, of course, yes, 24 hours, but if you feel the tissue looks healthy and it's been more than 24 hours, you can still retain the iris. You don't need to excise this. This was a patient who came after, I think, around 48 hours. We still chose to retain this iris and suture the cornea, as the patient is doing very fine. This obviously is an old, healed corneal tear, but I just showed it to show the iris. You can see that it looks devitalized. You do not want to put back any such tissue back into the eye. It's only going to cause, epithelialization inside the eye. If you're going to suture something like this, please do not put it back inside the eye. Or if you suture something where the iris looks like this, badly damaged, you just need to chop that off and not put it inside the eye. These are not classical cases, of primary trauma. They were actually patients with trauma who got infected, did not seek treatment, and that got infected. So it's a mix of a little bit of microbial keratitis and trauma. And you can see that they do really well with patch graft. This was a lady living on the right hand side. Was a lady living in the village. She actually came. I did not refine the amount of fibrosis in the pupillary area. I had a hard time dissecting that, and she's doing fairly well now after the transplant. She's doing well, though the eye is aphakic. The aphakic vision is around 6/12. She's doing pretty well. So I'm going to just go forward. Yeah, What do you do when you have a traumatic cataract along with a corneal tear? Do you deal with it or not to deal with it? The thumb rule is that if the anterior capsule is not damaged, you do not touch the lens. Just go ahead, suture your corneal tear and address the lens at a later date. Only if the anterior lens capsule is damaged, if there is vitreous presenting along with that, or if you feel that there is a foreign body inside the eye which needs to be tackled, obviously then you're going to go ahead and remove the opaque lens. Otherwise, by and large, you just manage the corneal tear, get the sutures out, have a stable cornea, get a good keratometric reading, and then go ahead for your IOL replacement. Cataract extraction with replacement. This you can see was done around 4 months post the primary suturing, and patient has good visual acuity. Vitreous in the wound is completely different. Even if you have a traumatic cataract, like I said, you can wait. But if you have vitreous in the anterior chamber and in the wound, you cannot leave that like that. You can't leave the vitreous touching or a vitreous strands tagging onto the cornea. You definitely need to address that in the primary setting. Go ahead and do a nice thorough vitrectomy. If not possible because of the shallow globe, first form the anterior chamber and then go ahead and do your vitrectomy. It's important. And obviously, needless to say, these kind of cases are bad prognosis cases. What do you do? Sometimes, there's another point I would like to make here. When you're doing a corneoscleral tear, especially if you're doing a corneal tear, which is right up to the limbus, do not stop there. Please open the conjunctiva next to the limbus. You are not sure. You'll never know, and you'll be surprised to see how many times you may have a small extension into the sclera. So make sure you go ahead and dissect the conjunctiva, even if it means you may just have to pass a small suture through it later. If you find a scleral tear, address that. If not, then you just suture the conch. If you have corneal tears which are scleral tears which are really bad, sometimes you can't see the posterior extent. You suture as much as possible and then you just let it be. You don't try and traumatize the globe and keep pulling on it. You just call your retina colleague and ask him to take over from there. Hence, to conclude, you need to suture maintaining the keratorefractive principles. Please remember, cornea is not like any other tissue in the body. You need to maintain corneal asphericity, and if you do that, definitely you will improve outcomes by decreasing astigmatism. And I think since most patients are younger individuals, we definitely owe them that. Thank you for your attention.